Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the next session of Entrepreneur India's Education Innovation Conclave and Awards. In this session, we'll be talking about digitizing higher education, the best practices in transforming institutions into digital universities, making remote learning effective, and how universities are addressing a wide range of challenges. I'm Saurav Kumar, Editor Special Projects, Entrepreneur India, moderator for this session. And to talk about the mentioned topic with us, we have today an esteemed panel. I'll introduce them to you. We have with us Dr. Vikas Singh, Executive Director, ITS Group of Institutes, Professor P. Srinivasan, Associate Dean, Work Integrated Learning Program, BITS Pilani. We'll be joined by Dr. Bhimaria Mechi, Director, Indian Institute of Management, Trichy. We have with us Dr. Rajesh Panda, Professor and Director, Symbiosis Institute of Business Management, Bengaluru, and Dr. Prabhat Ranjan, Vice Chancellor D.Y. Patil International University, and Professor Christopher Abraham, Head of Dubai Campus, SP Jain School of Global Management. So, gentlemen, to start with, the pandemic has without doubt disrupted education institutes and pushed the need for digitization. So, what has been the learning during this entire episode? So, Professor Abraham, if I can start with you.
Well, let me start with the power of human ingenuity. Pandemics are not new. The history of humanity is rife with catastrophes and pandemics, and this is one of it, probably the latest version of it. And every time a catastrophe hits, human ingenuity pumps into action. So we find ourselves initially, in a catastrophic situation, fight or flight, freeze, and then we take cognizance of it, reflect on it, and then start working. So here's the power. So every time there's been a catastrophe, you would find that human, ingenuity comes into play, and you find human development, progress, innovation, everything kicking in. And that's exactly the same thing that's happening here. Yes, we were struck. In fact, I wouldn't even call this a black swan event. This was being forewarned, but cognitive biases among all of us prevents us from looking at the long term, and we were caught unawares. But this was being warned to us long back, almost 20 years. We've been warned about a pandemic kind of catastrophe. But having said that, I think the power of human ingenuity kicks in, the power of collaboration kicks in, and today we see almost every institution has found a whole set of innovative ways by which we address this challenge. I'm not saying the solution is already perfect or complete, but we have addressed it, and I think the way forward would be to look at newer ways to do it. For us at SP Jain, what we had done, we had been a little more proactive. So almost 1 year back, we had invested in digital technology, not knowing that a pandemic of this nature is going to come. But what we actually did was we had the technology in place. So when the transition had to happen, it was more or less smoother than a lot of other institutions. So I think, foreseeing, foresight, scenario planning, risk management, the ability to look beyond the short term could be some of those things that we learned from this great pandemic. And later, as we progress, I can share some more personal experiences from our institution.
Yes, obviously, foresight would have worked. So, Dr. Metri, welcome to you as well. Sir, if you can tell us that what has been your learnings during this entire episode in the last 4, 5, 6 months, whatever we have witnessed.
So thank you, Saurav Kumarji. So just October 6th, I am Nagpur as a director from I am Trichy.
Okay.
So this is the first week, and last 4 5 months, I must say that when I was in I am Trisirapalli, then March pandemic happened. But much before that, our executive education division, we started e-learning center 1 year back, and we also partnered with two vendors, and the entire program basically purpose was online MBA education as well as online certificate programs. So for that purpose, institution was gearing up, and suddenly March the pandemic came, and whatever the facilities and systems we established for the purpose of e-learning center for online education, that we utilized for our mainline program, that is a PGDM program and executive MBA And also for the face-to-face, we were running program with Larsen and Toubro, learning program with Hindustan Petroleum, all these companies. Then we went for online. The experience has been extremely good. Initially, to begin with classes, we decided to go for 1 hour because in online attention span is extremely important to focus on learning. So from 90 minutes classes, we moved to 1 hour classes. But later on, we got the feedback from students as well as the teachers to case teaching, as well as students from one session to other session, log in, log out, all those issues were there. Again, we decided to go for online. And it is all about digital design and digital offering. They will make a difference. Everybody has gone for online all over the world because the mainline, the face-to-face education, what which was possible before pandemic, it became impossible, and the distance learning became online and the mainline became offline. So we call online and offline the face to face, which was possible, that became offline. So in this online, the basic focus has been what kind of pedagogy we use, what kind of changes you incorporated. The way we teach in face to face, that's not going to work out in online. So we also had a number of interaction with the faculty member, with the experts on online, and also students. It is all about the changing the mindset of students and faculty so that a learning can be enriching one. So this is all about digital learning, and also maybe in future of universities, maybe digital universities. Probably you can't see them, but you can get a fantastic outcome and result out of that. So experience has been extremely good, and at the same time, it is a learning experience, and probably after a year or so, learning curve will come, and probably further improvement can happen in this online learning.
All right, Dr. Mekhi. You made a point about students and faculty. I'll come to that later, but before that, I will go to Professor Srinivasan, sir. We heard about foresight. So a lot of people may have the intentions to go digital, but were not doing so because of maybe lack of infrastructure or maybe lack of funds or so. So, what do you think is necessary for higher education institutes to go digital right now? What would be the basic requirements?
Okay. Thank you, first of all, for the opportunity given to me. So, while we do understand the digitization becomes essential parameter in the pandemic situation, and in a country like ours, and because of the population and affordability becomes an issue. So, the technical higher education institutions which I am representing has already taken a lot of initiatives, especially the IITs and also BITS Learning, where we have made the courses available online in such a way that the people having just net connectivity can log into it and then try to find out how is it possible to go through the sessions. So NPTEL lectures, Coursera, MOOCs are the facilities which are already made available to a common people. But of course, the barest minimum requirement is that it must have web connectivity and the internet connection. That should be sufficient enough for us to take care of it. But of course, as I can understand that over a period of time, all these educational institutions will also come up with their own model how to cater to such a demand. So as of now, I'm sure that there are facilities made available and the students can make use of it. And of course, we have developed some digital content for some of the labs as well as the courses in BITS Pilani. Some of them are also available to the people if they wish to log on to that. So that's probably over a period of time that will become all right and the system will become normal in the future to come. So that's my thought
Yes. Okay, Dr. Srinivasan. Dr. Ranjan, I'll come to you. Dr. Srinivasan just talked about, MOOC and open, massively open courses which were available. But, the drawback was that, these courses weren't recognized as to be uh, uh, at par with, regular courses. But now that the mode of delivery of education is going to be the same. Obviously, it will be backed by an institution like, say, DY Patil International University. So, do you think that students or the prospective the employers are going to accept that, okay, you have taken the course online, but it's backed by a affiliated university?
Yeah, so just before I answer that question, let me just say a few words. So I was heading India's technology think tank, TIFAC, in Delhi for 5 years. And we prepared this document, Technology Vision 2035, which was to prepare country for technology to come in 2 decades. And we had foreseen the technology changing very fast. And even before I came to university in Delhi itself, I was experimenting, doing many experiments related to online education. We used to run a women training program. And so when I came to university 2 years back, if you hear my talks on the first induction day, I talked about digital future. So we actually started preparing for digital future from that time onwards. And we said that we'll focus less on physical infrastructure and human infrastructure, put more into digital infrastructure. So we were doing that. And when this happened, of course, there was an element of surprise, not because of preparedness, but because people who had to use these systems, they were taken surprise because if your laptop is not working, you cannot get it repaired. If your internet is not working, you cannot do it because it is lockdown complete. So that was a problem. You cannot buy anything. You cannot go out to get repaired. And that created situation. We used to do online exams, but the people used to come to center. Now you have to do it when they are in their homes. So those become challenges at that time. Slowly, over a period of last few months, these things have become a little simpler. To come back to your point, there has always been, even I personally, somebody is doing something online. We have online PhDs also being done. We don't feel very comfortable with it. Just now I was interviewing faculty member and I was trying to make sure that whatever PhD is done has been done properly. So there is a discomfort level that all of us feel when something is being done online. But this is not new. I've had faced this in 2002 when Gujarat riots were there. I was in Gujarat, and actually we couldn't go out to get anything. And so even physics lab I was conducting, I had to do it online, almost virtual way. So, but what has happened is that there are certain programs, especially to do with computers, we had already seen that a lot of learning has shifted to online learning. Even I'm personally not from computer background, I'm from physics background, but people consider me computer expert because I have been able to learn as we go along through online resources. I never go to classroom to learn that. So certain areas this has been going on, but certain other areas where actually you have to work with hand, that's where the problem lies. And what I had done previously, even for example, electronics or embedded systems, I developed a system earlier only, which I used to call lab in the bag concept, where there's a little device which you can carry along with your laptop. I call it lab in the bag, because whenever you connect it to laptop through USB port, you get whole electronics lab at your disposal. You have oscilloscope, your function enter, your logic analyzer, and so on. So students could actually carry this along and work at home itself. So this concept I had put into many things even before the pandemic happened. And in our labs also we're using the same thing, so students are comfortable doing this. So this was a way not only to deal with such situation, but also the fact that when the students can work from home like they do with computers, they can do much more. So if India has to move into manufacturing sector, especially the new areas of electronics, embedded system, then they can do much more work just like we can work on the software. So I wanted to actually get that flavor. So actually that has helped in this, and we are actually working towards that to make sure that learning is as good or even better than what we had face-to-face. So I'm expecting that this is going to grow more and more. COVID has given us an opportunity to force us into this, and we have been able to pick up that in a very accelerated way. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ranjan. You made a very important point about labs. So I'll come to Dr. Singh. Dr. Singh, so in initial stages of education, it's easy. Maybe I'm not sure, but maybe it's easy that students, they have to be taught whatever is given in the book. So you teach them. Their attention spans may be shorter, but parents can help them sit in front of them and do it. But in higher education, this aspect, which is labs or the practical aspect, is very important. How do we address that?
First of all, am I audible, sir?
Yes, you are.
Thanks to Franchise India and thanks to Saurabh for this opportunity. This question is very, very, crucial regarding the uh, conductance of, practicals and labs. Uh, in fact, in comparison to other like experts like IM or SPGN, I am heading an institution which has more diverse kind of, student group. And when I'm saying diverse kind of student group, it means they are coming from different parts of the country. In the beginning, of course, the students were, more ready for this, shift towards online education, be it theoretical classes or the practical aspects. They were more in tune because they were using various, video platforms. But uh, I won't use the word that we were that proactive kind, but the faculty members, they had initial difficulties in shifting from uh, physical classrooms to, they were not very comfortable with camera, lights, action. They were not behaving like heroes and heroines. They were more normal kind of, teachers. So they found it, quite a challenge. But I'm very happy that, faculty members, get on the bandwagon very, very quickly, and they became very smart. Today, if you look at any, video lecture of any of the faculty members of our entire group, they will come out very nicely. They know where to place camera, where to put the light, and all those things. So of course, what Dr. Ranjan said, this has been a great opportunity for every one of us to learn. My point is, there were difficulties, like some students were saying they were not having that great, mobile phones, and sitting far off in Odisha, sitting far off in, in parts of Bengal or in Assam or in Bihar. They were finding it difficult that one GB or 2 GB data, which was thanks to Geo, they were getting. It was running out in, say, after 3 lectures, 4 lectures. So difficulties were very diverse. Students from Delhi, students from NCR, they were having no issues. So what we did, we started dual kind of, lectures. First, there was a live lecture, which was interactive, of course, using Zoom platform. Plus, we also had the same video recorded and put on, YouTube channel of the institute group, so that those who are not having access to direct good data, they can at least do not download the entire lecture. They can see from YouTube. Another, this YouTube platform, was of big help to us as far as uh, conducting practicals are concerned. Those, the things that you are saying. Some of the laboratories which are using, say, SolidWorks lab or ANSYS lab or AutoCAD lab, they have those models which are available, where we can have interactive, sessions. They can log in sitting at their home, and they can see the live demonstration of the entire practical. But in other labs, where this facility is not right now readily available, in those cases, what we asked our faculty member and the lab staff to conduct the viva, or to conduct the, practical themselves, record it, and then send this video through YouTube to all the students, so that they can see. And after that, there was 20 minutes, question answer kind of session, where all 60 students of the class can ask certain questions about the readings, about the findings, about the entire experimentation. So this is how, we are trying to deliver the knowledge of, the learning that they are going to, the outcome that we expected out of those labs. We are trying to achieve that using these two models. Some classes, it's live demonstration using interactive softwares. In some cases, it's video recording of practicals, and then giving it to the students for them to see it, learn from it, and ask questions if they have any difficulties or doubts. So this is how, Saurabh, we are uh, taking care of this part of the academic delivery process.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Thank you, Dr. Singh.
May I interrupt? Can I have
Yes, yes.
1 minute on this, if you
Yes.
permit?
Please, Professor.
Thank you. Thank you so much, because it's a very, very important point you raise, and Professor Singh has explained how nicely they manage. I just wanted to add, as of now in BITS Pilani, we do have a practical lab hardware which can be accessed by anybody from wherever they are. We have an electrical machines lab where the student from Delhi or Pune or even abroad can log on to the electrical machines, and then they can change the readings and then note down and then submit the lab record. So the technology now has, in fact, we have an embedded system lab which is available to operate from the remote. We call that as a remote lab facility. We have a full-fledged automotive engineering lab located in our Hyderabad campus, as well as the course which I am presently teaching, heat transfer. There is a physical lab infrastructure available in the campuses, but we do have a facility that a student can access that facility from a remote location. Wherever they are, they can take down the reading and then make the calculations and submit. So it is as good as the physical presence of the students available on campus, but still they can operate from remote and then take down the reading. The technology has developed, and I just thought this is a very important point in the present pandemic. I just thought I will share what is the experience we have at BITS Pilani. Thank you very much for giving me 1 minute of time.
So thank you, Professor Srinivasan, to add to that, because that's very interesting to know what you just explained. I was just wondering, sir, that how expensive is the thing, and can others also implement it? So before, if you can answer that, then I'll go to Dr. Panda for the next question.
Yeah, it is definitely little costlier than a normal experimental setup, but maybe we do have what we call as a remote access facility, and we already existing facility with a computer can also be retrofitted with such a facility. So depending upon the type of an experimental facilities with the people would like to have, it may cost around 4 to 5 lakhs per experimental setup. That's what is the normal cost which we have for that. But of course, that is very useful in the pandemic situation like this, where it is definitely replacing the on-site lab where the students are not having access as of now. But I mean, it will be a very good replacement for the conventional lab facility where the students can do it. But of course, this cost which I told is on a higher side, where now since the market is catching up, even with a smaller cost, these facilities could be made available. That's what is my understanding.
Yeah. I'm sure technologies, become cheaper over time when they are used more and more, obviously. And I'll request other fellow panelists, in case you want to pitch in, chip in anywhere for anything. Please feel free, because I'll go around asking questions, but feel free to chip in wherever you want. So I'll go to Dr. Panda now, sir. So your experience during the entire process, and I would also want to know from you that we had, it was raised the issue of students and faculty. That in one of the previous sessions we heard that I heard someone saying that the teachers are frustrated and the students are bored at home. So how has been the entire thing for you?
Sure. Thank you, Saurabhji. Uh, so we say that whenever we face some problem, I think we have to take it as a learning opportunity. I think the same thing has happened with us also. But fortunately, for at least 30% of our faculty members who were quite comfortable with technology, because 3 years ago we started something called as an asynchronous learning, where being a completely case driven institute and being a management institute, I think we don't have the problems of labs like engineering colleges have, and some of our esteemed panelists also talked about it. So being a case driven institute, whatever theories to be taught in class were actually made into interactive videos using what you can say high-end softwares, and those were actually loaded into the learning management system module. Module is an open access software, open access learning management system, and then the students can go through those before they come to the class, prepare the case and come to the class for a case discussion. However, this was not for 100%. This was made optional, and only 30% people were probably doing it. And when last 2 to 3 years when we were doing it, we have also experienced that how we have to tweak this to ensure that the students go through, and all these experiences have actually helped us. So now we don't know whether they have gone through those videos or not, but in the module now we can check that whether you have completed or not. So we started writing to the students that, hey, you haven't completed it, so you will not be marked present, or you will not be able to allowed to come to the class unless you have gone through it. But now students can run it and probably go to their Netflix on their cell phone, and then the video can just run. So then we integrated these videos with quizzes. So after every 2 to 3 minutes or 5 minutes, there would be a small quiz with 1 or 2 questions. And unless you answer those, the video will not go ahead. And when those questions, those responses were recorded, so we know that whether you have gone through those quizzes and gone through the entire recording or not. So this experience had helped us in last 2 to 3 years, and we had a now repository of probably a few hours of I will say that maybe 100 to 150 hours of content which was ready for various subjects. And when we say whenever there is an adversity, there is an pandemic strikes, then we have to probably act fast. When demonetization happened, when everybody was dreaming about wallets, Paytm came out so strong and suddenly became popular that every panbala small kiosks had a Paytm, while all other wallets and banks which had a wallet, probably they could not capitalize on that. So we said these are the situations we have to work fast. And so these 30% faculty who were doing this type of content development, suddenly they became a big support because they started training others, and in a cooperative mode, everybody started designing content. And those were probably, so now our model which was on intranet, now we have to hire a server and we have to put it on the internet, so that students from various parts of the country, even abroad, will be able to access it. But yes, after we started, I think some other panelists mentioned there were issues in terms of digital, or we can say screen fatigue, how long they can actually look at the screen. So we have to also reduce the number of sessions that we can go per day, number of what you can say, and the duration of the sessions were also reduced. And we made sure that within every class, let's allow the students to probably go into Microsoft channel, because we have been using Microsoft Team, like Zoom has got breakout, Microsoft Team has got something called Microsoft channel, where we can send people to into smaller groups and discuss. So so the discussions can also happen in small groups, and when they come back, probably they are not just looking at the screen and watching it. And we also, and to reduce also this what you can say, the screen fatigue. So some of our sessions were asynchronous, and means those were our recorded videos and put it into the learning management system, so they can watch whenever they're comfortable. They don't have to watch at a particular point of time. And some of the sessions where the faculty wanted to do it in a synchronous manner and probably talk to the students directly and make it interactive, those were all made into live sessions. But all live sessions were also recorded and put it to the LMS for consumption later. Okay, so these are some of our experience, but as some other panelists also mentioned, internet connectivity, I'm not able to attend the quiz because it was raining outside, or my Wi-Fi was not working. I'm today working from hotspot, and that's why I could not. So all those teething problems were there. And for faculty members, I think they were the real heroes, because they had to put a lot of effort to adjust to the new environment, and they have done it. So I will say that this is the scenario when the faculty members are real heroes, and students are probably adapting to this new situation.
Hmm. Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, Dr.
I
Abraham.
wanted to add actually what Dr. Panda said. Actually, we were also exactly doing the same thing. But the two issues that happened. One was that in the early days there was people were shocked. So it was not simply technology, it was every faculty member, every student was in there in the process of what's happening and what's going to happen to me. So that was a concern. The second thing that continues to happen is that when you're giving live lectures, you don't see faces of the students because they put out their video because to save the bandwidth. And then you are talking to a class where you don't see anybody's face, you don't see the reaction. And that is something that all of us feel, something concerned about, that how to do this when you're talking to black screen in some sense. That's a concern. Thank you.
Yes, Dr. Abraham, please.
If I may chip in, so let's look at some of the challenges that our esteemed panelists spoke about: face-to-face interactions, engagement, screen boredom, frustration, right? So on and so forth. So what we did was we created a platform which is called Engaged Learning Online. So the key word is not online, it's engagement. So how do you engage? You engage in terms of interaction, you engage in terms of, excuse me, you engage in terms of simulations, you engage in terms of polls and quizzes, you engage, you continuously. So for example, in a 90-minute session, it's broken into 10-minute or 15-minute modules. So 10 minutes, you say something, then you play a video, or you do a case, or you do a game, you do simulations. So everything is possible within an online format. And as Dr. Prabhat said, one of the challenges is, do we speak to dark screens? So we ensured that we have a technology where people have to show their face. If the faces are not shown, there's no attendance. So they have to show their face. So we know exactly. And you got to see it to believe it. I mean, there are some videos on YouTube, so you can have a look at it. It's called ELO. If you put ELO SP Jain, you can actually see it. It's as good as sitting in a live classroom. In fact, we have a joke that says the only thing you can't do is touch and feel the professor. Everything else is possible. So simulations, games, polls, interactions, quizzes, breakout rooms. So you make it as engaging and as interactive as possible. That is, that's the way to go forward. The other interesting development, and I was enamored by what our panelists spoke in terms of even remote laboratories for engineering programs. Now 3D computers are coming up in a big way. And these 3D computers will now start, getting mass marketed, and the prices would come down, which means, the enactment of classroom design would go through a very, very exciting phase. So 3D, computers, 3D printing, hi-fi, high levels of wireless availability, and the engagement. Combine that with personalized learning. So we also have a mobile app that tracks every single student's progress in terms of their various competencies. And then what the app does, it also provides them the required inputs in terms of enhancing those particular skills. So combining a engaging learning experience with the personalized approach towards metrics and driven by technology should be the way forward. These are early stages, but I'm sure we'll have a lot of things we can do in the future. And eye contact, somebody was speaking about blank screens. I think it was Dr. Ranjan. So, even we are training our faculty to look at the camera and speak. So when the student sees us, he is actually, interacting with us on an eye-to-eye level. So it's to those details that we go into to ensure that the experience is seamless and exciting. Yes, there's definitely going to be fatigue, but that's where we have to time it in such a way that every 10, 15 minutes, there's some exciting activity that happens. So it's not a monotonous, boring, long drawn lecture, but a lot of interactivity that happens in between.
Okay, that's a lot of camera training for a lot of faculty. Yes, Professor Srinivasan, you want to add something?
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. Actually, I also wanted to add here, instead of online lecture continuously, other panelists also talked about synchronous and asynchronous learning, where the flip mode modules, where we are aggressively working on that, where the recorded videos of the course content will be made available to the students in advance, where when they come for an online interaction with the professors, the class will be more engaged in terms of the discussion of the case studies, problem solving, research, so that it adds much more value to the learning process, and it will keep them engaged effectively in the online. So the flip mode module of lecture delivery also becomes a successful method of teaching learning process, especially in this time of pandemic situation. I just thought of adding to that. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Professor Srinivasan.
Sort
Yes, Dr.
I
Singh.
would like to add just 1 minute here. In the month of March and April, I wrote 2 long papers for the consumption of my faculty members, that how they can take the class from like the lecture from classroom to the virtual online medium. And those 2 papers I wrote, and then my faculty members rather encouraged me that I should write a small book on this. So this book I wrote, which is Paper to Screen: The Future of Education, and it became one of the best-selling books on in education on Amazon. And what Dr. Abraham was saying, one complete chapter number 3 is basically dedicated towards engaging students, because the challenges are very new. And of course, even in class, you cannot touch and feel your professor. So, and you cannot touch and feel on the online medium also. But yes, I find that teachers are, like Dr. Panda said, they are real heroes. They learned the new medium very, very quickly, and they are now all geared up to take this higher education platform to a new and next level. I'm very encouraged and very happy with the performance of my all faculty members. Yeah. So.
Okay. So we have just a couple of minutes before we have to wrap up, but I'll try to take as many questions as well. But I'll come to Dr. Metri. Sir, this is one question that I spoke about during the green room also, that the Indian higher education institutes were already struggling to break into the top hundreds of the world and everything. So now with this added burden of in of inculcating digitization, digital mode of education, so do you think this will be a breakout moment for the institutes to leapfrog actually much ahead, or is it going to push us back all the more in terms of becoming the top institutes across the world?
I think, Saurabh Kumarji, if you look at the new National Education Policy 2020, top 100 institutions from India will go abroad and top 100 from abroad will come to India. And this is the digital world, and those who are studying, they are the natives of the digital world. So future belongs to blended learning, not only online and not only offline. This is one important aspect. So we need to have both. Some of the courses, whatever the justification we do for online, say close proximity, without teachers speaking and students speaking, listen to unspoken happens in face-to-face classroom. That is required for some of the management courses like leadership, some of the courses like mentoring, coaching, and softer skills. Face-to-face education is the best and it cannot be replaced by the online. And some of the courses online is the best. You need not to have face-to-face. Even recorded videos will be good enough. And some cases recorded plus synchronous, and then it can be asynchronous later on. So those are all the models will work out. But future belongs to blended learning and digital design of university, and digital offerings are going to definitely make a difference to position the universities, because it is a digital world, it is a disruptive world, and because of digitalization, disruption is happening like pandemic. So that is why future blended learning, and whether it is a face to face, anyway it is required, and this digital also required. So future belongs to blended learning, and that is where we need both, and we have to progress in both the areas, and that is going to help us to position ourselves in higher ranking at global level.
Okay, all right. So we've just run out of time, but we have a question. So I'll rather take it before we stop. So we have Jagdish Narayanan. He's asking about development in education in rural India. What he basically means is that, like mentioning that a student in NCR probably will not face that kind of problem that a student in a Assam or a Jharkhand or a Bihar village would face. So but Dr. Mehri also mentioned about NEP. So my question, I think the question that comes on here is that while NEP in itself obviously is there to facilitate better education policy, it will need support from other government initiatives, maybe something called BharatNet, which will be required to reach to the rural areas as well. And so there has to be a coordination between all these policies to deliver a better education. Professor Srinivas, do you think so?
Yeah.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Yeah. The sense, as per the question, which I can understand is how to reach out to the rural mass in administering this digital learning. Is that the
Right,
question?
right, right.
Okay. Yeah. So, as I have already told, the connectivity in India is considered to be one of the best when compared to the other countries. Even in US, I was told, and I also experienced that sometimes the connectivity is not so good. But the way by which this could definitely be addressed is the government should try to take up the initiative to make the minimum bandwidth facility available to the rural mass. And as I am understanding that the mobile phone has become the very common commodity nowadays with everybody else. So such a type of a facility, barest minimum bandwidth should be sufficient enough to reach out to this rural population, where we also have certain issues where the students from a very remote villages are unable to access, and also the bandwidth becomes an issue where while uploading the answer sheets after the examination or attending the classes live, where sometimes it goes off. These issues are definitely there, but addressing that should be a very prime agenda of the government to take it forward. That's what is my understanding.
Yes, Dr.
I just wanted to
If
add here. The government in 2015 had already taken Digital India initiative, which was exactly to address this. So this is an ongoing work. It's progressing at a very fast pace. So it's already going on. It's not something that need to be thought again.
Right. Dr. Panda. Yeah.
yeah, if I say, I think technology is actually for rural India. So it's not going to cripple them, rather it's going to actually empower them. I always think that tomorrow's the biggest university can be Google or IBM or Amazon, not probably the brick and mortar universities, because if you look at that hinterlands, they may not have access to great academic institution in terms of infrastructure, or even the price may also become a barrier. So when we talk about online education, it can actually become inclusive in terms of breaking the geographical barrier. At the same time, in terms of breaking the barriers of what you can say, the price, I mean to say, it can be offered at a much lower rate, right? And if that happens, maybe, there would be, see, there is no alternate to physical face-to-face classroom that will remain as a premium product forever. And it may maybe go as a blended, but the classroom sessions will never disappear. It has never disappeared in the past, it will never. But online may come out as an alternative to many places, where they do not have access to quality education or quality infrastructure, and they have to compromise to go to probably a B school or an institute which is available, near to them. So online is, in my opinion, is going to be a boom for the rural India. It's not going to probably create any hindrances.
No, definitely. Obviously, what MOOC did was, like, you could attend a lecture from MIT in US and India. I think the same thing which you're talking about. Yes, Dr. Singh, before we wrap up.
I would just take 30 seconds. I would say that, in fact, I share the opinion of Dr. Panda. The competition is not going to be between the universities. I believe competition is going to be with ed tech companies, like companies like Byju's is going to be, even today, the market cap of Byju's is, I think bigger than all IITs put together. Likewise, like Bajaj Finance is having, market cap which is much bigger than SBI with all its branches across the country. So I think, yes, with this digital technology, this digitization, the competition of, education institutions is going to be with Google, with Byju's and such ed tech companies. And we need to all, gear up in a big way to ensure that blended learning is at least there, where we have some physical classrooms, some online education, and a blended model which is better in learning outcomes than what Byju's is creating or other edtech companies is creating. That happens, and that's going to be the future of education, in my opinion.
And just 30 seconds, if I may just add, the
Dr.
future will be the democratization of education, because technology will reach economies of scale. So we would have much wider reach, and thanks to the new policies and the government's initiatives, we would be able to reach out to all the hinterlands. That's number one. Number two is there's a new term that's come up, which has actually been there for some time, but now taking significance. It's called automation. Automation is the combination of human intelligence with machine intelligence, or artificial intelligence. So the future is going to be driven by human wisdom and artificial intelligence. And so we would have a lot of these blended technologies and blended initiatives that come across that will completely democratize, and which is going to be a good thing for the future of our country, because you will have rural people coming out with great ideas, because the reach is going to be far and wide, and that, I think, is going to be the future.
Thank you, gentlemen. We have run out of time. We'll have to stop here, but I would have loved to continue this conversation. It's very insightful for even for me, and I'm sure the attendees also have benefited a lot. And as I see that if all the efforts that everyone has been talking about, the technologies that newer technologies that Professor Srinivasan talked about, the vision that Dr. Ranjan talked about, and the efforts that Dr. Panda, Dr. Singh, Dr. Ibrahim, you are putting into your institution, I'm sure that we'll have a bright future for higher education, a digital higher education ecosystem in the country. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.